Okay, so let's move off of experiments for a bit and just talk about some sampling methods with respect to doing a survey or an observational study. So if we need to get information or an idea of what percent of maybe high school youth in Georgia have had a concussion. So we're off of the spit test and we're just about concussions and just doing a little investigative background information. They want us to write a short description of how you would implement the following sampling methods in Georgia. All right, so a little real-world aspect over here. I'm going to pull in some information from a previous set of notes. And let's start with the one called a simple random sample. It's simple random sample because the idea, anyway, is simple. Putting names in a hat, mixing it thoroughly, and choosing a certain number of them. Everybody in that hat has an equal chance of being selected. Every group of a certain size has an equal chance. So if I have 30 students in my class and I want 5 of them to be randomly selected, every group of 5 in there has an equal chance. Even those 5 guys over there in the corner that are all friends, could they be the 5 that I pick? Yes. You would think, like, you would raise eyebrows and say, was this really random? But they have an just as equal chance of any other 5 being chosen. So how would we let that play out in our situation? Well, so we're talking about everybody, high school youth in Georgia. Maybe I don't know, let's pretend we magically have some list to work from. So we've got a list of student names, and basically we are going to put all those names on a computer spreadsheet or some kind of database kind of thing, and we're going to tell the computer to randomly select. So randomly select 50 names. And then, so now imagine we've got to go around and find those 50 students, contact them maybe via email or something, and provide the survey with them. So somewhat simplistic in its design, but trying to get those 50 randomly selected people. They're going to be all over the state, different places, and that's good. We wanted 50 totally randomly selected students to get an idea of what percent have had concussions. But maybe we want to make sure that we get representation from all groups of students, and we're still talking about high school youth. We want to make sure that we get some that have played sports and some that don't play sports. And so we split it up into these 2 different groups here, and we get a random selection. Maybe 30% of students play sports and 70% don't. And so we get 30 randomly selected. So we're going to use an SRS within the group of students that play sports. So we'll go to our sports roster, randomly choose 30 with the same criteria that we did with this SRS thing. And then we go get 70 students with an SRS, a simple random sample, from the no sports group. So a stratified method is a way of grouping students by a characteristic that you say, hey, this is really important that I get good representation from each of these groups. And then you simply go get a simple random sample from each of those groups. Now, cluster is a grouping method as well, but it's using existing groups, sometimes physical, geographical groups, and sometimes not. Oops, I don't know what I did there. So I'm kind of thinking, well, students are organized, they're in school systems. And so we utilize these different school systems. So we've got, I don't know, something like 160 counties across Georgia. And so we decide that we're going to randomly select 5 counties. And then I'm going to survey or select every student in those counties. So maybe I get those counties to agree to have a day where they do the survey and they administer to every student. So was this easier? Well, I'm going to get a lot of students, first of all, but I am going to go specifically to 5 counties versus these 50 that I have to get that are spread out across the entire state. So maybe this one's a little bit easier to administer. Anything across our entire state is going to be a little difficult, but I go to those 5 counties and every student is going to be surveyed within those 5 selected counties. So where's the randomness in this? Well, it's the word right here, but it's how you selected these 5 counties. Where's the randomness in this? Well, obviously you randomly select some students. Where's the randomness in this? Well, you broke them into these two groups on purpose, but then you got an SRS from each group, so there's the randomness. This last one is one of the easier ones for people to recognize. It's called a systematic random sample, and you randomly choose a starting point, and then you choose every nth person after that. So if I have, I don't know how many students we have across the state, but let's say we have 500,000, and I wanted a group of 5,000, well, I'm going to choose every 100th person, and I'm going to find a random starting place between 1 and 100 to decide where to start. So where's the randomness? Because it feels very robotic with this every 100th person. Well, it's in finding that starting point, and once you get that starting point, then it's easy to do. Now this one does not really make much sense in our little scenario. It's usually where the group is ordered in a predetermined way. So maybe you've got kids coming off of a bus, and you want to randomly select 5 kids from this group of 100. Well, 5 kids out of the 100, you're going to randomly select a starting place between 1 and 20, and then you're going to select every 20th person after that. So if you randomly selected the 7th person, then you're going to go for the 27th to the 47th to the 67th to the 87th, and you're going to, 87th, and I write 89, 87th. Now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 randomly selected students. There was that systematic pattern, but it was in choosing the starting point that we got our randomness. Okay, so all those are good methods. What's not a good method is, for surveys anyway, is the volunteer method or the convenience sample. They introduce bias, and you can't fix bias with statistical techniques later. So that was long, but these are important concepts. Thanks for sticking with me.